Hello all you hellions, and welcome back. For my next set of videos, yes, there will be multiple of the same topic, I wanted to hit on one of my all-time favorite horror directors, Dario Argento. Although there are many great movies by Argento I could have chosen, I wanted to talk about my favorite, which is of course, Suspiria. As many of you know, Suspiria is the first in a trilogy called The Three Mothers. Second in this trilogy is Inferno, with the last being Mother of Tears. I intend to talk about all of these movies, including the remake of Suspiria, but first we need to hear the inspiration for all these films. That is the topic for today's video. Argento's inspiration came from a collection of essays that are in the form of prose poems, meaning they are written in verse, not rhyme, and were written by Thomas De Quincey. This collection is titled Suspiria de Profundis, which translates to Sighs from the Deep. It was first published in 1845. After traveling through several European cities, Argento became obsessed with the occult and witchcraft. Therefore, he wrote The Three Mothers with European culture and had each inhabit a different city. Thomas De Quincey was a good student, but revolted against his tyrant of a schoolmaster and ran away. He was almost destitute as he wandered in Wales and London. He later reconciled with his family and was sent to Oxford, where he developed a lifelong addiction to opium. He was able to keep the addiction in check at times, but was never able to fully kick it. Opium was the only substance he could find that would help alleviate the symptoms of his trigeminal neuralgia, which is attacks of piercing pain in the face, so severe that some sufferers of this affliction commit suicide. Quincey writes of his neuralgia in his most famous work, The Confessions of an English Opium Eater. Suspiria de Profundis is a sequel to Opium Eater, and both are based on visions Quincey experienced while on opium. Of all the essays in Suspiria de Profundis, the one that stood out the most and is the inspiration for the Three Mothers trilogy is titled Levana and Our Ladies of Sorrow. This essay specifically is the topic of today's video. I'm going to interpret it to what I think it means. If you agree or disagree, feel free to leave it in the comments. Now let's dive in. While in Oxford, and through the eyes of a child, he sees Levana in his dreams. Levana never shows her face except in dreams. She is described as being a pagan Roman goddess who performs for newborns the earliest office of ennobling, which is giving someone a noble rank or title. In the Roman religion, a mother places her newborn baby on the ground. The father decides if he will lift this infant proudly, pointing it toward the sky, thus acknowledging it as his own, or leave it upon the ground, denying the infant his home and leaving it to almost certain death. The father is the one to physically lift the infant, but he performs this ritual as a representative of Levana, for it is her spirit that lifts the baby. Women invoke Levana to instill parental instinct into their children's fathers. Levana's name means to lift up, as in levitate or elevate. These Roman rituals have been abandoned many years ago. Levana is ever present in the development of children and their education. The writer now writes of his grief. He acknowledges that it is hard for people to believe that so much grief could lie on one as young as he. He explains how this is possible. He writes of the largest boarding school for boys in England, Eton. This is a very prestigious school. It is required that a boy be there 12 years. Therefore, he should start at the age of 6, since at the age of 18, he is superannuated, or obsolete through age. Now, I didn't do a lot of research on this topic, but found out boys started at the age of 13 and graduated at 18. However, it said in some cases, boys would start younger. Anyway, back to the essay. Many boys ripped from their mothers and sisters at this young age died of grief. The writer has seen this. There were more deaths from grief at this boarding school than realized. It was not documented as grief, but that was what it was. Due to Levana's role in the development of children, our writer realizes she has a great reverence for grief. He sees her often in his dreams, and she communes with the powers that shake a man's heart. Therefore, it is that she dotes on grief. The power he writes of comes in the form of 3 sisters. He calls them Our Ladies of Sorrow. He is adamant in wanting it to be known that they are not the cause of individual sorrow, but all individual sufferings of a man's heart, all of it. These 3 sisters come from one mysterious household, yet they have their own separate kingdoms, which are vast. Our writer has walked in all of their kingdoms. Their kingdoms are silent, for they do not speak. They abhor conversing through sound, which disappears as soon as uttered. They are servants of God, and converse by signs in heaven, by changes on earth, by pulses in secret rivers, heraldries painted on darkness, and hieroglyphs written on the tablets of the brain. The oldest sister is named Mater Lacrimarium, Our Lady of Tears. It's times like this I wish I spoke with an English accent. These names sound so much prettier with an English accent. Oh well. She wears a diadem upon her head, which is a jeweled crown or headband worn as a symbol of supreme power or authority. This sister is often raising her sweet and subtle, yet wild and sleepy eyes to the heavens, challenging them. She carries more keys than the papal or pope, and they open every cottage and palace. With her keys, she does a ghostly glide into the chambers of sleepless men and women and children. She is the oldest and has the widest empire. She is honored with the title of Madonna. She travels by the winds and clouds as she hears lamentations. She moves with uncertain steps, fast or slow, but still in tragic grace. She was in Ramah, a city in ancient Israel, when Rachel died in childbirth. Rachel had 2 sons, one named Benjamin, spelled Ben-Ani, meaning son of my mourning. This is in the Bible. Rachel weeps for her children and refuses to be comforted. She was there in Bethlehem the night all sons, 2 years or younger, were killed by order of Herod, the king of Judea. She sat all summer at the side of a blind beggar that our writer often and gladly visited. His 8-year-old daughter, who showed great devotion to divine worship and who happily traveled with her ailing father, has died. Taken in her springtime youth by God, this beggar continually dreams his young daughter is with him, just to awaken to find she is not. He will forever mourn her loss. All winter she sat with the Tsar, who saw visions of his daughter, who was just as young and just as pure, and was also lost, just as suddenly, and left behind a profound darkness. All night and day she raves and moans. She is often stormy and frantic, raging against the heavens, demanding the return of her darlings. This is our Madonna. The middle sister is named Mater Suspiriorum, Our Lady of Sighs. Unlike her older sister, she does not ride upon the wind. She creeps timidly and stealthily. Her eyes are filled with perishing dreams and with wrecks of forgotten happiness. But these eyes are never seen, for she never raises her eyes. Her head forever droops and is adorned with a dilapidated turban, and intermittently she inaudibly sighs. She is not rebellious, never defies. She is humble to a downcast state. Here is the meekness that belongs to the hopeless. She is with all who are hopeless, the slave, the criminal who hoped for pardon, the women sitting in darkness without love to shelter her head or hope to illuminate her solitude, for her holy affections given by God now burn sullenly to waste. Also, children of hereditary disgrace, all these walk with Our Lady of Sighs. Her kingdom is amongst the houseless vagrant of every clime. She has a single key, which she rarely uses. Yet in the very highest walks of man, she finds chapels of her own, and even in the glorious England, there are some that to the world carry their heads as proudly as the reindeer, who yet secretly have received her mark upon their foreheads. For them, she uses her key. The youngest sister is Mater Tenebrarum, Our Lady of Darkness. The writer asks that we whisper as we speak of her. Her kingdom is small, or else none would live, and in this kingdom all power is hers. Her head is turreted, meaning a small tower on top of a larger tower, typically of a castle on top of her head. She wears a threefold veil made of soft, thin, light fabric with a crinkled surface. She stands tall, so tall her head is nearly out of sight. A fierce light of blazing misery, that is her eyes, can be seen from great distances. She defies God, is the mother of lunacies, and the suggestress of suicides. She is only able to approach those with an inner and outer turmoil which affect the heart and brain. She moves with incalculable motions, bounding and with tiger's leaps. She has no keys, rarely is among men, and storms through any door she wishes to enter. These ladies are also called sublime goddesses and gracious ladies. They are ancient, before Middle Ages, and are called this to appease them. Madonna touches our writer's head. She speaks not in words, but in sighs, to the second sister, Our Lady of Sighs. She says in childhood she dedicated him to her altars. She charmed or enchanted him from a heavenly path and stole his heart to hers. He began worshiping idols, the worm, and prayed to the wormy grave. He has been seasoned by Madonna for Our Lady of Sighs. Madonna asks if Our Lady of Sighs will take him now to her heart, filling him with her hopelessness, and season him for their youngest sister, Our Lady of Darkness. She turns now to Our Lady of Darkness, asking if she, who violently storms and hates, if she will then take him to make him suffer, to not feel the tenderness of woman, to banish all hope from him, to curse him in ways only she is able. So shall he see abominable sights that should not be seen. He shall read elder, sad, grand, and fearful truths. He will rise before he dies, and the command given to these ladies of sorrow by God will be accomplished, to plague the heart to full capacity of his spirit. I highly recommend anyone to read this essay. Try it with an English accent. The way he writes is truly poetic, and there's no way I can do it justice. 5 very enthusiastic coffins. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing, and I will see you next week for the first in Dario Argentos' trilogy, Suspiria. I leave you now with a video of Vincent. I just can't help myself. Thanks for watching.